Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Setting Up Your TaxAct Professional Software. My name is Tracy Hoop, and I'll be your moderator and presenter today. Just a little bit about myself. I've been with the company for over 15 years, and I'm currently the product manager for the professional tax software. And I'm very happy to get to speak to you all today. This webinar is intended to help demonstrate how to quickly and accurately set up your software. We'll cover how to enter all the necessary information, including time-saving tips about importing last year's data. I want to mention one housekeeping item before we get started. This webinar is being recorded so that it may be viewed on demand at any time. It will be available on the webinars page of the website within the coming days after the webinar, and I'll post that link at the end of the presentation. Just a quick rundown of the areas we're going to cover. We will cover how to download and install your software, our new import wizard, setting up your software, adding and importing client returns. We'll touch on a few features that are available for the pre-season, and then offer the support and sales information if you'll need it at the end. Now, our 2016 federal editions were released on Wednesday, October 26th. And are available to anybody who has their 2016 order placed. These can be used to get your practice set up and ready for tax season, so we encourage everyone to go out there and download your software and check it out. I'm going to be demonstrating how to get your software set up in the TaxAct Professional 1040 edition, but first I'd like to pull up my 2015 software so that you can see what's available and how it will pull into the 2016 software once we have that installed. So let me go ahead and start up my 2015 software. Okay, as you can see, I've got a couple different return types here, mostly 1040s, but there is also one 1065. And I won't be installing the 1065 for 2016. However, what I'm going to show is that you will get an error if you try to do that and don't have the program installed. So that's kind of a reminder that you'll need to install every supported version that you had from last year in order to import those types of returns. The other thing I wanted to point out here is if I go into master information and look at the preparers, I see that I have two preparers set up in this practice currently, Joanna Bennett and Matthew Lyons. So we'll see both of those get transferred over into 2016. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of this for now, and then we'll go out to the website to download and install. So here's the TaxAct Professional website, and I'm just going to click on Sign In and enter my information here. And if you'll remember, we changed to a new account system last year. So if you're a returning customer, you'll want to continue using your same username and password from last year. And if you're new, you would use the username and password that you created when you placed your order. So here is the home page of the Practice Manager, which is your account. And what you'll want to look for is this Orders and Downloads tile. And clicking that brings you to where you'll see an order history. And any products that are available to download will have a download link next to them. So for this demo, we're going to download the TaxAct 2016 Professional 1040 edition. And you would just click it, and it starts to download. And I've got that file actually on my desktop. So I'm going to double-click this icon to start the installation. All right, there is the installation wizard and the license agreement that you can scroll to read, and then you'll have to check the box to agree before you can continue. And this is showing where the program will be installed. We highly recommend that you use the default location. Just makes it a lot easier to support. And then this is to put in a shortcut on your desktop, which we also recommend. All right, and this just confirms where it'll be installed. And then this is just some README information, just giving kind of a quick rundown of system requirements and stating that you'll need an EPIN in order to e-file, which we already know. And this is the other thing that we recommend is that you keep this box checked to auto check for updates on program startup. That ensures that you always have the latest version. As we get into tax season, we will be releasing several updates as we get forms finalized and we make, you know, different changes to the software and how it's performing. So we recommend that you keep that checked. And just so you know, when you do get an update in your software, you will get a prompt after you start your software to show you if any of your returns were impacted. So if there was some kind of change, you can run a report that shows all the clients that may or have been affected by that, if there are any. All right, so it has been installed. We can get a confirmation so we can finish. And then I'll go back out to my desktop where I see my new icon for 2016. I'll go ahead and start it up. And the first thing you'll see is our new import wizard. So this gives you a more intuitive step-by-step way to help easily set up your practice. It streamlines it so that you're importing your practice, prepare, and master information through this setup. We'll import the client information in a later step. This is just strictly the master information. So we are going to get two options of where to store your data. One is on the cloud to TaxAct Secure Servers, which is actually an enterprise-only option. So if I would try to select that, because I'm not in enterprise, I'm in the standard edition, I would get a notice of, you know, here's all the other things you can get if you upgrade to enterprise, and then it has the information needed to order that if you're interested. So if you already have a standard edition, it's only a $70 upgrade. So if online storage is where you would like to be for your practice, that would be something you would want to do. So for this demo, we're going to store the data locally on my computer. So I would select that option and hit continue. And then here we'll see a confirmation of the information that it found from last year. So this is all new. It confirms the practice ID and the name, and then the list of preparers, which are the two that we had earlier. So we will go ahead and click Import now. And it confirms that it was successful. So we can go ahead and hit Continue to Setup Wizard. So this is where you'll see all the information being pulled in from last year. So you've got the practice name and practice ID, the address, and the contact information here. I do want to point out one change to the phone numbers. Last year, these were labeled as phone number 1 and phone number 2, which wasn't very intuitive to how the actual information was being pulled in. So we wanted to clarify that, both so that it was obvious to clients and to the preparers. So we changed phone number 1 to work phone. So that will get imported from last year if you had a work phone listed in your practice information. And then phone number 2 we changed to mobile phone with the idea that that could be leveraged by clients, you know, or by the software to get notifications by text message for e-file status at some point down the road. So that's just a quick change of something that we updated for this year. So I've already gone through and verified this information, and none of it has changed. So we'll go ahead and continue. And here's where you'll see the preparers that were imported from last year. So I'll just need to select my default preparer, which should be the one that you know, you want kind of as that admin role. So we'll go ahead and select that. And then you can also click on each of these little pencil icons to edit any of the information in the preparer. So here you'll see it pulled over their name, PTIN, and then we're using the practice information by default, so that's checked, and you'll see that it's grayed out because it's just pulling that straight from the practice information. And then you can specify your own work and mobile phone numbers and email address down here. So email address is important to fill out if you, again, want that to automatically pull into the e-file steps for notifications on your client's e-file status. So go ahead and finish. And then we can go ahead and continue to master information. So the master information is where you'll set up all the charge by form, the billing invoice, and instruction letters. And these are kind of the templates that will be used throughout the practice. So we'll go ahead and set that up. And here you can see you can change what client return statuses are available in the client manager as well as the pay status. You can add new or you can remove any of these if you don't want them as options. You can set up security for your software. If you want to set up user level password protection, this is where you would do so. If you wanted to change any of the default directories where data is stored, you can do that from here. It'll let you browse to wherever it is that you want to use for that location, or you can click this to restore the default location at any time. And then these are just general settings, kind of how you prefer to have everything set up in the software. And then here's where we can go through the master forms, and this is by product. So right now we only have the 1040 installed. If you had other versions, you would see a similar tile for those as well. So we'll just go ahead and click 1040, and then here are the three options of what I can set up for 1040. There is a charge by form, which is where you're including a separate fee for each form on the invoice, or you can check billing, the master billing invoice, where it's a basic fee based on the type of return, so whether it's federal or state. You kind of get an overview of what's all included in those fees. And then there's an instruction letter that you can opt to print to go along with the return. And there's just different options that you can select from there as well. So as you can see, as I visit each of these, it'll put a green check mark there to show that it was at least looked at. So you can kind of keep track of where you've been. All right, so now that we've got our preparer and practice set up, we can go ahead and import our client returns. So you just go to File and then Import, and you have two options. You can import from a prior year 1040 PDF, or you can import from TaxAct 2015 client returns, which is what we'll do. And here's another quick wizard to help you kind of find where the data is. It will default based on where we detect the data. So since we were a local storage user last year, it defaults to locally on my PC to where to find last year's data. So we'll go ahead and import. And then here are my 2015 returns. So I just select all of them, and you can select the first one and then hold Shift, select the last one, and it'll grab all of them. And then we click Open. And then I'll just take a quick minute to import, and then it confirms that it imported. And there we are. We have our 1040 returns. So just to show you one more thing, if we did select PDF data, you just select which type of file that you are importing from last year. And then you would go through a similar process where you would select the returns, and then with PDF import, you actually confirm the information that's pulled over. You have the opportunity to. You can also just accept all of the import and review it on your own as you're actually completing the return. So it does say here that it takes a little bit longer to import from PDF just because of the data that it has to pull in and map to the correct fields. So it's about 1 to 2 minutes per PDF file. So you might want to take that into account when you are determining how many you're selecting at once. All right, so that is our import. And now I'd like to go into a couple features for what we like to call as preseason items. So the things that are helpful this time of year as you're kind of getting set up and you're getting your data organized. One of the things is we added this latest news and updates link that you can click on at any time and find out the information in the latest releases. Since we are trying to do more regular releases, about every 2 weeks we're looking at, give or take, a few days here and there. So you'll see our initial release, 10/26. You can expand to kind of see what was included in that. And then we also had a release on 11/15 for the permissions enhancements. So that kind of gives you the information on what was all included in that. So this is good to review as you are getting, notification that there's been an update. There is also this latest news link that you can click on. If there are any kind of issues that come up that we don't have a quick fix for, that it's maybe going to be fixed in the next release, we will put information out here just so that everybody's aware that we are on top of this and that you don't have to waste your time notifying us if it's something that's already been reported. So you can always come out here to check to see if the issue you're seeing is listed, and if not, we definitely want to hear from you, but this will at least give you an idea of, hey, there's something kind of off, and is this something that I should contact you about, or is it something you're aware of? So if there is something that you're seeing that we don't have listed here, definitely encourage you to reach out to us. We do link to the support page from that screen as well. There's also popular help topics available, and then all of our support options are listed at the bottom. All right, so one of the other features that's available and helpful this time of year is what we call client organizers. And they've actually been enhanced for this year. So they've been reformatted and reorganized into 5 different organizers. So you'll see, let me just select a client as an example here. And then you have the option to print just what's applicable to this client, or you can pick and choose the ones that you want to print. So that's always an option. And then down here is where you can see, okay, I'm going to do a cover sheet, and then we added a personal information organizer that also includes the healthcare, Affordable Care Act questions. There's an income organizer, and that's further broken down into the different types of income, so you can select, which ones might be applicable to your client. There's a deductions organizer, and then you can also do an itemized deductions organizer, a credits organizer, and a payments and banking organizer. So those are all the options, and I'll just go ahead and print to PDF just so we can take a quick look at what those look like. So here is my organizer, and I selected most of the options, so it takes a second to populate, but there's the cover sheet. And then here is an example of the personal information organizer, and it's just basic info to help you get started on the return. And like I said, here's the ACA healthcare organizer, an income organizer, income and expenses for the business, deductions, itemized deductions, and so on. So these are helpful if you need to gather the information in order to start on the return, or just to kind of see, you know, what might be different from year to year if you have a returning client. All right. And then I just want to talk a little bit about the two different types of data entry that we have in our software. So if you go ahead and open a return, the default here is what we call Forms View, where you're taken into the actual form and can enter data directly as you need to. And you can navigate in this tree view over here on the left to the form that you might need to enter. And then the other option that we have is by clicking this Q&A button, you can get into our Q&A, which is more of an interview type method. So this is really helpful if you have newer preparers to your office and they're just kind of starting out or learning kind of the workflow. Also, if there are tax law changes or different areas that you're preparing that maybe you're not as familiar with and you want to kind of get a little bit more information on how to handle certain areas, you can flip back and forth as you need to. And you know, as you can see, there's more information available as you go through. This is just a reminder to auto-save the client return as I'm working on it. So we also recommend doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit yes, and we can continue. So this just kind of walks you through, and there's always information available at the bottom to kind of give you more information about this specific area. You can also click in the help areas over here. They're context-based, so as you're going through the W-2 wage income, it'll have related help topics to the right. You can always search the Answer Center down here. One other thing I want to point out that's available through the Q&A is what we call Topics Assistant. And if you used us in 2014, you might remember it as topics or forms and topics. So it's a little bit of a rebrand on a feature that we didn't have last year, and we heard that it was sorely missed. So we wanted to make sure we got that in there for users this year. And what this does is kind of provides you a high-level overview of your client's return. And what you can do is jump specifically to any of these areas and also expand and get a little bit more granular on where you're going in the return. So for example, if I wanted to jump to, we'll just say this section where I can add a new W-2, it will take me right to where I need to go to, and then I can jump back. And the arrow indicates where I'm currently at in the return, but I'll go ahead and jump to the next section just so we can take a look at what that looks like when I go back. So there's where I'm at right now with the arrow, but then you'll see that there's a checkbox next to the area that I already visited. So this is a good way to kind of keep track of where you've been in your return. So if you start on a client's return and you know, you're waiting on information from them, maybe they're waiting on a form, and you come back to the return, you can at least see where you visited, so you know what areas you might need to look over. So there is also a search up in the top right corner where it's also kind of contextual. So I could say 1099 int, and it will bring up suggestions based on what I'm typing here. And then by clicking one of these, it'll jump you directly to that area. So that is also back for 2016. And I think that is all I needed to cover for this webinar. So we'll go ahead and get back to our PowerPoint presentation here. And as a reminder, you can visit TaxAct Professional /support to view all your support options, including email and phone number, which are listed here. You can also register for more upcoming webinars and watch the recording of past webinars. And if you're looking to order 2016 software, you are welcome to do that online, or you can contact our dedicated sales team at the number shown on the screen or the email. That is all I have for today. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you taking the time to join us today.